Are babies going to freak-offs? Is that what's going on here? Was Diddy rounding up babies for his freak-offs? Because how else would you explain why in 1991 the CDC added the hepatitis B vaccine to the childhood immunization schedule? Every baby at birth gets the shot, and 3 shots by the time they're 6 months old. No questions asked, no exceptions. For a disease that is primarily sexually transmitted or spread through needles. Makes no sense, so I dug into the story, and what I found, the word disturbing would be an understatement. First off, the modern Hep B vaccine, called the Recombivac's HB, was first introduced in 1986. Coincidentally, the same year Congress passed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act that gave near blanket immunity for vaccine manufacturers against liability for vaccine injuries. The vaccine was created by a Merck scientist named Maurice Hillman, who also pioneered a bunch of other very popular vaccines. Anyway, it was considered a very big scientific breakthrough at the time, except there was just one problem. Very few people were actually getting it. When it first came out, the CDC was only recommending it for what they call high-risk adults, sex workers, IV drug users, prisoners, health workers, etc., which is really not that many people. So Merck, they did what any competent business would do, which is to create a bigger market.
Most of the vaccines after 1989 were added not for public health reasons, but for profit, pharmaceutical profit reasons. So why are we vaccinating one-day-old babies for hepatitis B? Hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. You get it from having sex with from multiple partners, gay sex, or from sex workers, or intravenous drug use. Why would you give that to a baby? It clearly, the only reason, in fact, Merck, when it developed the drug, was told by FDA and CDC, we want you to develop this for those vulnerable populations. And the populations, when they didn't buy it, Merck went back to the agencies and saying, you told us to develop this vaccine, nobody's buying it. And CDC said, don't worry, we'll just recommend it for children. We'll force everybody to buy it.
That's right. In 1991, seemingly out of nowhere, the CDC announced that every baby in America should get the Hep B vaccine. Not just high-risk kids, not just kids born to infected mothers, everyone. Even though, according to the CDC's own data, most infant hepatitis B cases came from mothers who were already infected. But instead of implementing targeted intervention, they chose mass vaccination. And this is where things get very sketchy. The governing body within the CDC that decides the U.S. vaccine schedule is called the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, or ACIP. Now, the advisory committee at the time was chaired by a man named Dr. Samuel Katz, who at the same time also worked as a paid consultant for Merck, Wyeth, and other major vaccine manufacturers. Yes, while overseeing U.S. vaccine policy, he was literally also on the payroll of the company that stood to make billions from the changes that he was about to recommend. And when questioned about the conflict of interest, he replied, quote, I think it has increasingly become a problem, but it is a perceived problem, not a real problem. Okay, so the expert paid by Merck says it's no issue that experts are paid by Merck. Meanwhile, Merck was also pouring millions of dollars into immunization advocacy. For example, the Every Child by Two campaign founded by former First Lady Rosalind Carter. Internationally, they also lobbied the World Health Organization to make Hep B mandatory overseas. And that's how the game works. Once a vaccine gets added to the CDC schedule, states almost always require it for school, and once it's required for school, it becomes a guaranteed sale. In the words from a congressional report, the recommendation for routine use of a vaccine is tantamount to a federal mandate. So by getting Hep B on the schedule, Merck transformed what was a niche product into now a national cash cow with a market that is ever growing, projected to increase from $8 billion from just a couple years ago to $13 billion by the end of this decade. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's just an actual conspiracy. And all the information is out there in the public. You just have to look. My name is James Lee. This is the 5149 Show. I'd love to hear your thoughts about childhood vaccination. Is it good public health policy, or is it just another case of corporate capture? Also, if you want more stories like this one, exposing the underbelly of the pharmaceutical industrial complex, please take a second to like and subscribe so together we can dismantle the stranglehold of the mainstream media.
Hep B is spread by two routes: sexually transmitted disease or intravenous needles. So my 1-day-old isn't going to be having sex or doing heroin right away. So what's the purpose of getting this on the schedule in the first day of life, the first hours of life? And if you push, and I welcome anyone to do this with their doctor, you get to two things. You get to the American patients are too stupid to remember, so we need to do it right away. That's literally like what they say. And then my doctor told me that the child at daycare could trip over a needle that has hepatitis B on it. That's literally what they get to. That a needle could be on the playground, that somebody just did heroin or something, threw the needle down, and it has hepatitis B blood on it. I asked the doctor, has there ever been in human history a case of hepatitis B being transferred that way? They said no.